Okay, so start assembling this. So we'll get this lined up. There are a couple different bolt patterns on there. The ones that have kind of the coned recess on it are going to be for these bolts. Kind of nice. So you'll have 3 bolts, 12-sided head, and they actually already come with Loctite on them, which is kind of nice. And then you're going to have 6 of these bolts, and they're already kind of milled down. You'll be able to tell that those are the ones that go and the ones that already have a recess. But we'll get these tightened down. I'm going to do a quick read over of the instructions. If you spend this kind of money on something, might as well read the instructions, because sometimes they have something in there that is like, oh, stop, do this real quick before you do anything. So give me just a second, I'll read over everything. Alright, so I'm going to get this stuff assembled real quick. What it told me was these guys are going to 16 foot-pounds, so the countersunk ones with a flat head on them, make sure that you get yourself the proper sized bit. These things are that 12-sided style. You don't want to try to use a regular sized bit on these. They're T40 plus, so I'm going to get these, a little bit of blue Loctite on each one of them. There looks like there could be some already on there. I know that this is blue Loctite, but I have not seen yellow Loctite. Post in the comments if you've seen yellow Loctite before, but I'm going to put a little bit of extra blue Loctite on there just because. And so first 2 bolts, one of the things that also said was you'll start out with these flathead bolts, and you put one here and then one 180 degrees right across from it. Now the damper itself just slid right down on the hub for me. It sunk all the way down. You can see that it's sealed and it's flat across, but you might have to take your palm, kind of give it a couple taps. This is not the right tool. If anything, give it some hits with your hand, but don't start smacking it with a hammer. Check it, make sure that it's aligned. You might have to grab it and kind of spin it a little bit to get it aligned, so the bolts will go in easy. Put this at 16 foot-pounds. I got something squishy. If you don't have these little rubber things, maybe grab a rag or something that is gonna be able to provide some kind of cushion to the damper if you put it in a vise to hold it still. Make sure the vise itself is a little cleaned off, you know. Do a little brush. You don't want any foreign material like metal or anything else that you normally would have in the vise to get in between the harmonic balancer and the crank seal. 16, check it. Yep, 16. Gonna go right across from it, 180 degrees, just like when I first put the bolts in, and sink this one down. The next step is going to be torquing these 12-sided bolts on, and they come in 2 different sizes apparently. They come in 3/8 and 5/16, and they are 2 different torques. So for the 3/8 bolts, like what I have, is 28 to 30 foot-pounds, and for the 5/16 bolts, it's 16 to 18. So there's a little bit of a difference there. You don't want to under torque or over torque your bolts, so make sure you verify which bolt you have before you torque it to spec. There we go. So all of them torqued to 29 pounds. Torque was 28 to 30. Now this guy is assembled. Next step. All right, cool. Now we can get this thing installed. Now, I tried to install it already using a harmonic balancer installer tool, because you do have to have an installer tool to get this installed. Don't start whacking it with a hammer. But they have a couple different types. So you can go to AutoZone, you can go to O'Reilly's, and you can rent one of these. But you need to make sure, if you've got an LS, you're installing this, you need to make sure you get the long reach. So the long reach harmonic balancer is the only way you're gonna get it. The regular ones, you can stick it in there all day any kind of way you want it, but it's not long enough to get on the back of the actual harmonic balancer. Now how this works is it's a long stud, and on these studs it's threaded all the way down. That is for this. On the other end, you'll have a different type of thread, and that, because there's different ones, will be, you know, the specific thread for the inside of your crank. So you'll tighten it all the way down. It's got a little square end on it. We'll grab a wrench, tighten that, and make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And then this goes on the end. It's got this little pilot bearing, and that's why you get a pullers, because this pilot bearing will make sure that you don't have it rubbing on the outside of this, and it also makes sure that you're not stripping out the threads on the inside of your crank, because that is definitely something that is not easy to fix. So that just screws on when you start tightening down. All right, now that I've got the flywheel tool installed, it's going to hold the engine in place. It's going to allow me to torque down the bolt. Now, if you're using a stock bolt, you'll be replacing it, but you're going to take your old bolt, go ahead and get it inside there, get it as tight as you can, and then you're going to torque it down. Directions actually show 240 foot-pounds. That's right, 240. So I really have never seen anything else have that much torque on it, so I didn't have a torque wrench that goes up that high. And shout out to good old Harbor Freight for their 90-day warranty, if you know what I mean. But this guy goes up to 250, so 10 pounds more than we need. We're gonna use this to crank it down. I've got it set right now at about half that, 120. And we're gonna get it up to 120. Once I get it there, I'll take it up to 240. There we go, 240. Woo! Didn't need the cheater pipe after all. Tell you what, that 240 is no joke though. All right, now that we got it all tightened up to 240 pounds, let's pull it out. Whew, 240 pounds. If you've ever had to tighten something down tighter than 240 pounds, comment below. Tell me what it was and how tight did you have to tighten it. Jesus. Also, did it break? Thank God ours did. Alright, our next step, it might be a little bit hard to see, but if you look up here towards the top right there, there's a little groove on the edge of the crank. It's actually part of the harmonic balancer. They make this little recess right there so that you can pin the crank if you want to. You put a little key in there. That way, if you have a supercharger or something that's running off of the crank and you don't want it to spin on accident, this will keep it from spinning. In our case, we're not doing that. It's a turbocharged engine, so we're just gonna fill that with silicone. That's what they actually tell you to do in the instructions, to fill it with RTV silicone. That way, when you crank this guy up, it doesn't start spraying oil all over the place. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get that filled up, and then we'll go to the next step. Well, I don't know if you can see, but now there's no hole. I've covered it and sealed it up with the RTV. Now I'm ready to get my bolt put in that we're gonna leave in. All right, now that we've got the hole filled where the key normally is for the Super Balancer, we're ready to put our bolt in. Now remember, this bolt is not the same bolt that I used to torque this down and fully seat it to 240 pounds. This is a brand new bolt. Now, if you're going to use the stock bolt, you want a brand new bolt. If you want to spend $100-something on a new bolt, you can buy a new ARP bolt, and that new ARP bolt, I believe you can reuse them multiple times. Now, when I put the first bolt in originally, I used just a little bit of anti-seize so that it didn't get too tight and stuck in there. This time around, I'm going to put a little bit of thread locker. And I'm going to use the blue. There it is. Now, this tells us we take it to 37 foot-pounds, and then we're gonna reference the front of the engine with a torque wrench hanging at the top where we achieve 37 foot-pounds, and reference 140 degrees clockwise for the tightening cycle. So if it was straight up and down, then if I turned it 180 degrees, it'd be facing straight down. 140 degrees is going to be slightly less than that, so I'm going to grab something to show me exactly where 140 degrees will be. Alright, now with the bolt secured inside, blue thread locker on the threads, we torqued it down to 37 foot-pounds. Once we had it at 37 foot-pounds, we went another 140 degrees, and it is now tight. That is how you install a Super Balancer for an LS. And if you're not already subscribed to Gotti Garage, I appreciate you guys watching. Please do subscribe because we have cool videos like this coming out all the time. And thank you guys for watching that are already subscribed. I really do appreciate y'all's support. Next time on Gotti Garage, I'm gonna be doing some more stuff with these turbos. Stay tuned.